Here we go in three, two, one.
Folks, what is up? Welcome back to the Vol Talk podcast. That is Austin, and I am Blake. And the time is finally upon us, Austin. We are in the playoffs, and it is game week. We got a game coming up this Saturday against the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Tennessee Volunteers. Man, they're talking about a big orange takeover, baby. We'll see. Yours truly, not yours truly. You being yours truly. You're headed up to the game. You're headed up to Columbus, aren't you?
Yep, we're headed up to Columbus. It's gonna be cold, but we're ready for it. Man, I don't know, dude. I have kind of a biased take on it, or like I'm getting a biased take on it because I'm on Vol Twitter. But dude, it seems like a lot of Tennessee fans are going to be in attendance. It really does. I don't know if you saw, but the season ticket holder like pre-sale code from Ticketmaster got leaked, and the way it got leaked, according to this one person on Twitter, they said they tricked an Ohio State fan into saying that they are an Ohio State fan by photoshopping Ohio State gear on themselves, sending them that picture, and then they got the pre-sale code and then shared it with Vol Twitter, and it went around. So we'll see, man. I don't know. My guess is about 20,000 Vols fans. That's going to be my prediction, about 20,000. I think that's around what we had at Oklahoma, maybe 15,000 at Oklahoma. But I think it's going to be a pretty decent showing, dude. I think Vols fans are going to show out.
Man, I hope we do. I hope we show out up in Columbus because, man, what a huge thing that would be for the fans to travel, to support the team, get a little noise going, against the Buckeyes. And just bring a little Knoxville up there to Columbus and support the team. That'd be huge. So we'll get into all that. We'll get into the invasion of the shoe, as they're calling it. We'll get into a few other things. But folks, again, welcome back to Vol Talk. Today we are doing the Ohio State Buckeyes preview, our playoff first round of the college football playoffs, first year of the 12-team playoff, and your Tennessee Volunteers are in the playoffs, and we have got a first round matchup against the Ohio State Buckeyes. And you know what? This episode, we're just going to be focused on this game against the Buckeyes. If you're new to the channel, you're just catching this, go back and check out our live stream from about a week and a half ago of when we live reacted to the final playoff rankings. And we talked about all the scenarios, and then we talked about, once kind of the pieces fell into place, we talked about Tennessee's path to the national championship. So go check that out. We did that episode with Dakota. But again, Austin, tonight is all about the preview of the Buckeyes, man, and it's an interesting matchup, right? We've got your classic, how's our defensive line going to do against their offensive line? They've got a few injuries on the offensive line, but you and I were talking about before we started the episode. We were talking about the injuries that we have. We've also got some missing players from those entering the transfer portal, so we might be a little lacking in depth heading up to Columbus. There's the factor of it being an away game for us, right? It's a true road game. This first playoff game is, so there's a lot of factors that are against us, but there's a lot of factors that you got to feel good about too. So what are the big headlines for you heading into the game?
I think number one headline that I've seen people talk about in the discourse is the cold, is the weather. How are the Tennessee Vols, which apparently a lot of Ohio State fans think is deep south or in Florida or something, or on the Gulf Coast? No, Tennessee gets pretty cold too. I think the difference of temperature is going to be about like 10 degrees between Columbus and Knoxville. It wouldn't have been a very big difference. But I think, I've been on this really since we've been talking about it, since the live stream you mentioned, I think the cold could actually favor us, dude. I really do. I think we are built to win in the cold. I think if you tell me in this game, if you just look at how Ohio State played Michigan, okay, If you say this game comes down to running the ball and playing good defense, I think that favors the Tennessee Vols. I really do. I think that's how we're built to win this game this year. And I think Ohio State's strength is their perimeter players. So I think the colder it is, the more the game slows down. I think that could favor us going into the game. And then you mentioned the transfer portal. Just a quick note on this before we get into specifically our guys. How idiotic is it that the transfer portal opens up? Okay, the transfer portal window opens up before the season's even over. How stupid is that, dude? The NCAA is a joke. They literally could fix it with just the strike of a pen. Just say, hey, transfer portal opens up after bowl season. It's not that difficult. But we're dealing with the NCAA here, so apparently it is that difficult. So anyways, we, like as you mentioned, dude, we had several receivers who entered the portal, like 3 or 4 receivers who have entered the portal. So that's going to be a massive factor in the game. And you were talking about the injuries. I mentioned to you before we got on the pod that in the Vanderbilt game, Brew McCoy, Squirrel White, and Dante Thornton all either didn't play in the Vanderbilt game or didn't finish the Vanderbilt game. So I'm definitely worried about the receiver depth. And then we lost Cam Seldon, who at this point is probably our 4th-string running back, but still you lose depth at running back. So it's unfortunate, man, that those guys aren't going to be available in the game, and it is going to hurt us quite a bit. But hopefully guys step up. Some young guys are going to have to step up in this game for us.
Yeah, and you got to wonder, too, so Heupel talked this week in his press conference about the transfer player, or the players who have entered the transfer portal not playing. We looked at it prior to starting the recording tonight, and the student athletes who have entered the portal, they could technically play, but it seems Heupel has decided that our players who entered the portal will not play, which I trust his judgment in terms of, hey, what is that going to do for our culture if we've got guys who aren't fully bought in, right? And him saying, you know what, we'll take the hit to the depth in favor of, taking the guys up there who really want to be here at Tennessee and who want to, finish out this season strong. We'll see, if it does end up playing a factor. You mentioned those potential injuries to some of our other receivers that is really worrisome for me. Again, I hope it was just an overabundance of caution, in the Vanderbilt game. Even Dylan Sampson, I think towards the end of the game kind of, finally came out of the game. And again, surely that was, just caution, but man, you gotta be worried about our best players getting banged up before what is now obviously the biggest game of the season, right? I mean, we go into the Georgia week, we go into the Alabama week, and it's like, okay, this is the biggest game. Well, we've gotten through all those games, and now this game is the biggest game because you are playing for a national championship. We are not like Ohio State fans. We talked in the live stream. Dakota brought up how, a lot of the Ohio State fans, and I get it, right? It's the biggest rivalry in sports, but they would rather beat Michigan than win a national championship. I hear you, and like there's part of that is like, okay, we won a national championship, but we couldn't beat Michigan, right? Like I get that, and so I understand that perspective. But at the end of the day, dude, national championship, you're the best team in the country, and so this is the biggest game, right? That we have is certainly the biggest game of Josh Heupel's career now, right? This is a playoff game, and so my biggest headline coming to this game is I want to see, how is this team going to come out? We've talked about this all year. How is this team going to come out and play in this playoff game? I want to see them fired up, man. I want to see, I hope that especially our offense can come out firing and showing that we're ready to take this game by storm. Now, you mentioned that, okay, maybe this game slows down with the weather and maybe that favors us. Okay, if that happens, then, we're looking for some big plays from the defense, right? We're looking for a lot of work out of Dylan Sampson. Shout out to Dylan Sampson, All-American. Should have been a Heisman finalist. We won't talk about that right now, but But what do you think are the keys both on offense and defense in order for us to be able to go into Columbus and get a win in the biggest game that we've played in many, many years?
I think the one matchup on paper that stands out to me in this game that's going to be crucial is our outside cornerbacks, Jermon McCoy and Ricky Gibson, going up against their receivers. Jeremiah Smith has been phenomenal as a freshman. They have Emeka Ibuka, who right now is projected to be a first-round draft pick. So our corners are going to have to hold up in this game. They've been phenomenal all year. I mean, they really have. They've been one of the biggest strengths of the team, especially Ron McCoy. I mean, I think he's been the best player on the team, and that includes like guys like Dylan Sampson and James Pierce. Like he's been by far, or not by far, but at least in my opinion, the best player on the football team all year long. So he's gonna. I mean, big task, dude. Probably the hardest task of the season. Probably the best receiving core they've gone up all year. And I've already talked about, I think the more the game slows down, the more Ohio State tries to win by running the ball. I think that plays into our favor. Our run defense is really good. Been good all year. And we know we have Dylan Sampson, so that's a factor. We're going to have to run the ball on offense. Because, again, I mean, the reason that there's this cliche in football when during the postseason, the game slows down, and teams win with good defense and running the ball. The reason for that is because it is cold. It's harder to pass in the cold. It's harder to be in a high-octane offense in the cold. And we really haven't been that this year. We haven't been a high-octane offense this year. But with that being said, a key to every game is Nico. How is Nico going to play? The turning point for Nico in this season was the second half of the Alabama game. Ever since the second half of the Alabama game, he's been phenomenal. He was phenomenal against Vanderbilt. He showed a lot of grit in that game, being down 14 and leading his team back. He's been really good the second half of the season. Can he continue that into the playoffs? Very tough task. Okay, I think the second biggest matchup on paper is their D-line versus our offensive line. I think me and Blake have talked about this a lot. Our offensive line is not great. It's definitely probably, which, I mean, if you look at our season preview, it's literally played out the opposite of what we've been saying or what we said to start the year. But the offensive line is probably our weakest position group. And Ohio State has a vicious pass rush. So we're going to have to be able to slow down the pass rush, give Nico time to throw. Because when Nico has time to throw, you saw against Vanderbilt, dude. He had very clean pocket against Vanderbilt, and he torched Vanderbilt. I mean, he really did. He torched Vanderbilt. I think if we needed him to, he probably could have put up 50 in that game. That's how well Nico played in that game. So, yeah, man. I mean, we're going to have to be able to block well, play good defense. It's just classic. It's just classic old school football, really. When you're playing in 15-degree weather, that's what it's going to come down to in a lot of ways. So, yeah, man, I think that's a lot of keys to the game.
No doubt about it. It will be cold. It's going to be a night game. Ohio State was excited about finally having a night game. I guess they're used to noon kickoffs. Some people are saying, hey, maybe that could play, into our favor as well. We're kind of used to those. We had almost exclusively night games this season, not entirely, but man, we had a ton of night games this year, so maybe that'll help us. But it is going to be cold. It's going to be nighttime in Columbus, Ohio, in December, late December, and so it's going to be cold, and so like you said, the offense. It's interesting, right? Because we haven't, like you said, we haven't been the high octane offense this year that we were expecting to be, and that we have been in years past. And so, what does that mean? Does that play into our favor? At the end of the day, I think though that for us to be in our best position to win this football game, we're still going to have to make some plays happen in the passing game. And to your point, it's going to depend so heavily on protecting the quarterback, right? And that's a simple thing to say, right? That's so easy for me to say. I get that's like a simple take, but when you look at games where Nico has been under pressure, that's obviously where he has performed poorly, is under pressure. Now he's shown moments of pocket presence, right? But ultimately, from what I've seen, it seems like the offensive line, when they play a better game, obviously Nico plays a better game, right? And so I think you're hitting the nail on the head with the offensive line, man. We're gonna Lance Hurd, John Campbell. We'd need them to earn their payday, so to speak, and play their best football against a really tough defense in Ohio State, to give Nico the best opportunity to make some plays, so that you can have our entire playbook available, right? And so that you can open up the run game, um, because I mean, I don't know. You can tell me what you think, but if we can't get anything going in the passing game, then it's going to be tough to get lanes open for Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you're always going to have to make plays in the pass game to win at some point. That's why Nico is the most important player on the team. The quarterback is the most important position. Therefore, Nico is the most important player on the team. He's going to have to make big plays. I think it's going to, I mean, if it comes down to the fourth quarter, okay, if you go back and look at my Alabama analysis, it's very similar. Nico's going to have to make special throws in the fourth quarter of this game. And if it's close in the fourth quarter, which I think it will be, I mean, I think it will be a close game going into the fourth quarter. And to your point, you're going to have to make throws downfield at some point. And he has come up in those big moments in the past, so I expect him to in this game as well. Now, of course, you already mentioned this, but the road factor is massive. But we'll see, dude. I mean, it's so hard to tell. Is this team's road woes because of just purely noise? Is it a noise factor? Well, who knows? If Vol Nation shows up, there's 35,000 Vols fans. That probably won't be as big as a factor. So we'll see. And, Nico's from California, so he's going to be playing in the cold. But, again, it was pretty cold against Vanderbilt. Now, it's not this cold. I mean, it's going to probably feel like it's in the teens in this game, so it's going to be a little different animal. But we'll see, man. We'll see if you can make those throws in the cold. We're also going to have to get the run game going early, dude. I've talked about this throughout the year. We have struggled running the ball in the first half. Now, we do wear on teams. I've noticed that. But will we be able to wear on a team like Ohio State who has a lot of depth? I mean, this is a team, and probably something I've already should have said, but talent composite-wise, if you just look at how many 4 and 5 stars they have on the roster, it's probably top 3 talented roster in college football. So they have the depth, okay? They have the depth. So I don't know if we'll be able to wear on them like we have other opponents this season. So we're going to have to get it going early. And that's when the offensive line is such a massive factor, because Dylan Sampson can only do so much as the running back. The offensive line is going to have to open it up. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think if we can get the running game going early and Nico makes a couple special throws, I think we can do enough on offense to win. I think, honestly, how we're going to win this game, though, is going to come down to the defense. Okay? If you just look at how Michigan played Ohio State, and that's really the key to this game. Just go back and watch the Michigan game. As a Vols fan, go back and watch the highlights or look at the box score. Do something, just if you didn't already watch it. And the team has been watching that like crazy. That's the key to victory. If we can lull Ohio State into just a dirty, gritty game, I think we're going to win. I really do. You can put pressure on Will Howard to make mistakes and throw it to our guys like he did against Michigan. I think we can win the game, man.
Yeah, and that's you're absolutely right. That's obviously what we're going to talk about next is the defense. The offense, obviously, we have to put points on the board in order to win the football game. That's how you win a football game, is you score more points than the other team, right? But in a situation like this, and looking at the blueprint that we have in that Michigan win, that's Ohio State's last game. That's the most recent game they've played is Michigan, and they lost that game. And if we can somehow replicate that blueprint, of the Michigan game, then I think you're absolutely right that's going to put us in a spectacular position to come out and win this football game. But yeah, ultimately that, I mean, you look at Michigan and how they held Ohio State to, one of their lowest point totals this season, and we're going to have to find a way to do that on defense. And you talked about the cornerbacks and the tall task that they're going to have, and Jermod McCoy is going to have in terms of containing these really talented Ohio State receivers. But we've talked before on the live stream, and you've talked off stream about this matchup between our defensive line and their offensive line. Let's talk about that a little bit, because they, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't checked recently, but last I saw they had some injuries to their offensive line, and of course we have one of the best defensive lines in the country. And we talked Dakota, and you talked about how Will Howard is he does not have great numbers under pressure, right? And so, and we talked about that going into the Georgia game, where it's like, man, if we can get some pressure on Carson Beck, then he's gonna turn the ball over. He's gonna not play a great game. What happened? We didn't get as much pressure on Carson Beck as we had been getting on other quarterbacks, and then he played his best game. So let's talk about the defensive line and getting some pressure in this Ohio State backfield.
Yeah, man, it's a great point. If you look at Will Howard's pressure numbers, the game he was pressured the most was against Michigan. Go figure. And that was his worst game of the season. And it so happens to be that's probably the best defensive line they played all season. So, and dude, I mean, I don't know if our D-line is as good as Michigan's, but it probably is. I mean, depth-wise, I think we have a top 5 deepest defensive line in the entire country. That's one of the reasons we're in this playoff right now is our defensive line and the depth on it. It rolls 12 deep, and those guys are healthy. That's a position group that's been relatively healthy. We've been pretty lucky with little to no injuries, and the reason is because they don't have to play 60 snaps a game. A lot of those guys are getting rotated in for only about 20 snaps a game, and like I said, you got 12 deep. It preserves them, and they're fresh coming into the playoffs. So I think it's a huge matchup to watch, because if we don't get pressure on Will Howard, it's going to be a long day, because they have really good receivers, and Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson and those boys can only do so much for so long, right? So if we can't get pressure, I think we're probably going to lose. It's that simple. Like, if we don't get pressure, we're going to lose the game. But I think we will, dude. I really do. I mean, Ohio State, listen, you can say what you want, SEC, Big Ten. They haven't played a lot of good defensive lines, dude. The first really good one they played dominated them. And that was a couple weeks ago. That wasn't that long ago. And man, just thinking about Ohio State's woes against Michigan, who's to say that when it gets colder it doesn't impact Ohio State, man? They've really built their team from the outside in, and it seems like as the season goes, they start to struggle later on. So who knows? More I think about it, I really feel like the cold could benefit us. I really think that. But I think our defensive line's in for a really good game. We're going to have to stop their running backs. They have 2 really good running backs. So that's going to be a big factor too. But they've been pretty elite stopping the run. But the big question mark is, can we put Will Howard under pressure and force him to make mistakes? Funny enough, in the Michigan game, if you just look at the box score, they didn't get a single sack, but they pressured him 17 times. So that's the thing. Sometimes those traditional box score numbers will lie to you. They somehow got out of that game without getting a sack, but he was under duress all day. So I'm looking to see if James Pierce and those boys can do the same thing in this playoff game.
Yeah, talking about sacks, I saw someone say, and I don't give 2 rips about Ohio State, right? The Buckeyes. Obviously, I care about them this week because we're playing them, right? So we look into Ohio State, and as I'm looking into Ohio State, I'm seeing apparently Will Howard's a pretty big guy. He's like 6'4", 240 or something like that. Pretty big dude, and so it's our defense is gonna have to wrap him up and actually follow through on a tackle to bring this big old boy down. And so, but at the end of the day, whether we get a sack or not, I don't care if you can replicate what Michigan did, right?
Correct.
If you can just get through, whether you bring them down or not, and get a sack, Michigan won the game,
Yeah.
and so obviously, you know, if we can replicate that some way somehow, and we're going to have to do that in order to. I think you're absolutely right. I think your point about Nico making some key plays and then the getting pressure on Will Howard. I think though if those two things happen, if Nico can make some big throws or a couple key plays, and we get pressure on. There goes Discord again with the thumbs up, and Nico gets, or I'm sorry, and the defensive line gets pressure on Will Howard, then yeah, I agree with you. I think we're going to be in a good position to win the football game. But to your point, the pessimistic side is if we don't, then it could be a long night. Because I don't know that we are built very well this year to get into not necessarily a shootout. I don't know if game conditions are going to lend itself to becoming a shootout, but a boat race of sorts. I don't know if we're built to be able to beat Ohio State if we get into an offensive matchup with them.
Yeah. Going back to your point earlier about, getting sacks. Sacks are nice, but pressure is where it's at, man. Like, if you're getting pressure at a high volume, then that's going to impact the game. It's going to impact the game. And I think our corners are good enough to give the defensive line 3 or 4 seconds to get to the quarterback. And man, I mean, it's going to be it's like a James Pierce legacy game. It's also a huge game for his draft stock. It's just like a massive game for him. And there's so many guys on the D-line that can be massive games for. But James Pierce in particular, looking for him to absolutely eat in this game, dude. And whether we get sacks or not, like you said, Will Howard, I mean, he's actually pretty good at, not turning pressures into sacks. But as long as we can get pressure on him, force him to make bad throws, I like it. I like the matchup. But yeah, dude, I mean, going to your other point about winning a shootout. Listen, it is cold, but that is in the realm of possibilities. Ohio State starts putting up some points. They make some big plays downfield. We're not getting pressure on Will Howard. He starts hitting these perimeter weapons. We're in trouble. We are in trouble if that happens. I just don't know if we could keep up in that scenario, and also not sure if our offensive line. I mean, I'm hoping this is a defensive game, and just because I don't know if our offensive line is going to hold up the whole game. I really don't. I think Nico's going to be under pressure, and hopefully he just doesn't make a huge mistake. And, hopefully Heupel has been able to scheme up something where we can get the ball out quick and not let Nico sit back there all day. But, yeah, I mean, I think this is the kind of game that's going to be low 20s, teens kind of game. But, again, I think that could favor us. I really do. If you just look at that Michigan game and you just look how we've won this year, dude. Look how we've won games this year. That's how we've won. That's how we won the Florida game. That's the only reason we won the Florida game is because we were able to run the ball down the stretch and play good defense. That's why we beat Florida. So we are built. We can win this way. But I still think, obviously, at some point, Nico's going to have to hit a play or two downfield. Or else, who knows if we score at all? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
If I think we need to get some points on the board early too in the first half, because I don't foresee us, being able to go on to win this game if we come out flat like we have in a few games down the stretch of this season, right, and not scoring in the first half. But man, you make some great points in terms of. Everything with, our offense not being, just in general, if we get into a position where Ohio State's putting a lot of points on the board, then it's going to be tough. It's, especially with the offensive line and being able to keep up with this pass rush attack from Ohio State. And frankly, I really like your point too about, Heupel scheming up some stuff to get the ball out quick, because I think that when you look at, again, and I know this is kind of old news, right? But earlier on in the season, when Nico was having some struggles, we talked about how it seemed to be like a confidence issue and a quick decision making issue, right? And he wasn't getting rid of the ball, and he was kind of hanging on to the ball too long, kind of like Joe Milton used to do. And so I think it's so key to Nico's confidence to get a play developing quickly, right? Get the ball out quick, get some stuff out in the flat, or get, those kind of, those little, whether it's a screen or an out route or whatever that Heupel likes to run, kind of, short yardage pass plays just to get something rolling to get Nico's confidence up. I think that's going to be huge. But at the end of the day, dude, like you talked about, we've been winning football games this year with pounding the rock and good defense. And I'll tell you what, as the historical guy,
Love it.
Growing up watching us in the 90s, that's how we won football, was freaking running it down their throat and stuffing them on defense. And hey, shout out to the last time we played Ohio State, the one and only time we've played Ohio State. We beat them, and it was on some big defensive plays. Okay, you sent me some stuff this week.
Who is it? Bill Duff stuffing Eddie George at the goal line.
Dude, here goes Discord, man. It keeps giving me these thumbs up. You sent me that, talking about that story about Bill Duff, man, and he's like, what did he say? He said that his girlfriend, or his wife was from Ohio, and so that they had a lot of Ohio State fans, and he loves to remind them how he stuffed their best player on the goal line and married their prettiest girl. I mean, what a dog!
I know, dude.
What an
a
absolute
savage
dog!
Yeah, man.
So who's gonna be the Bill Duff this year?
Definitely. And going back to your point about the quick pass game, it also protects the offensive line, dude. I mean, getting the ball out quick protects the offensive line, and I think that's, like, if there's something I have circled on paper that really wears me in that game is the offensive line. This is one of the best defensive lines we played all year. I don't know if it's better than Georgia. It's right up there with Georgia, though, and we kind of saw how that game played out. So we don't want a repeat of that. But yeah, man, I mean, we do need a Bill Duff to step up, dude. We do need that kind of guy to step up and make a big play on defense. I mean, we talked about this a lot this season on Vol Talk dude, this defense has been fun to watch because, first of all, they make big plays, they make big turnovers in key moments, but also, dude, when they start to bend but don't break, right? And then the opponent's on the goal line, all of a sudden, strip, we get the ball back, or crazy interception in the end zone. Like, they've just done that all season, and I think they're going to continue to do that, man. Like, that has been the most consistent thing with this team, start to finish. Start to finish. It's been the most consistent thing with this team. They had one poor performance against Carson Beck, where I don't even think the secondary played all that badly. They didn't have their best game, without question. I think it was as simple as Carson Beck had all day to throw, and eventually guys are getting open. Outside of that one outlier this season, we have shut down pretty much every offense we have played. And we have gotten big turnovers in big moments, and I think that's going to happen again. That's going to be a key. You're going to see an Ohio State drive maybe early in the game, right, where they're driving down. They have a long drive. It's going to be a long drive, 6-minute, 8-minute drive. They get down in the red zone, and you're going to see Jermon McCoy or James Pierce or Omar Newman-Lott. Somebody's going to make a play. Somebody's going to make a play. And that's going to be the hero if we end up winning the game. So maybe Will Brooks. I can't believe I forgot Will. Shout out Will Brooks, man.
Maybe it's old Will Brooks, the hardest white boy on the block.
Yes, sir. You never know who's going to come through, dude. But somebody's going to come through because they have all year long. Again, it's been the most consistent thing on the team. And hopefully Dylan Sampson can have a huge performance, man. He still has a lot of Tennessee records on the line, if I'm not mistaken, like career records, things like that. So potentially extend his year, get him some of those records. And we're going to need a big day from D-Samp. When it's 15 degrees outside, you're going to need a big day from your running back. So expect him to get probably 30 carries, 35 carries. Who knows, but going to need a big day from D-Samp.
And I'll tell you this, I expect a big day from D-Samp. as in I am anticipating it, because if there's going to be any person on that team who is going to give his all for Tennessee and who's going to come out and make some plays, it's going to be Dylan Sampson, right?
No
We
question.
know he's going to come out and give his all, and leave it all out on the field. And so can't wait to see that. Can't wait to see who it is who does step up. We are going to, like you said, we're going to need someone to probably multiple people to step up and make some big plays. And this is crunch. This is why you play the game, man. And in my opinion, this is why
Of course, you
play the
play for a
game.
national championship. That's
You play for a national
all
championship.
about this, dude. That's the special thing about this playoff.
And again, it's like, who it's gonna to me it's gonna separate the men from the boys, right? Like who's out here, you know, playing, I don't know, for what, money and social media followers. I don't freaking know. All that's great, right? I'm not gonna knock someone for wanting to make some money, but man, who's out there and who actually wants to show that they're the best man on that field, and who's gonna show that they're out there to freaking win football and win the national championship and win, because
Yeah.
that's what it's about, man. At the end of the day, yes, money, fame, all all this stuff. At the end of the day, it's all about winning, right? And so who's going to come out and make those big plays like you're talking about, and show that they want to win the game. I hope some folks do that on the team, but also I hope our coach, man. This is another thing I want to talk to you about is, I hope our Josh Heupel comes out and shows that he is growing as a coach and that he can outcoach some of the best in the country, right? Ryan Day has had his struggles. There's some question marks about the culture,
Yeah.
and are the Ohio State fans going to be booing, and some of them maybe want Ryan Day gone already, and so are they going to be against Ryan Day? Where are the players at, right? But Ryan Day, is going to be fighting for his job, right? And I think a majority of the players are going to have his back on that. So can Josh Heupel come out on the road and out scheme Ryan Day?
Well, I will say the Ohio State athletic director said his job is safe, which is pretty bold, I would say, because in that job you just can't lose to Michigan. But he says his job is safe, win or lose. So I don't know how that's going to sit in the locker room, or I think it is a key intangible in this game, though, man. I mean, the fan base is fed up with Ryan Day. That is a fact. If you get on any message board, if you get on Twitter, if you scroll any Ohio State fan message board or anything like that, they all want Ryan Day gone, because they care more, like Blake said at the beginning of this podcast, they care more about beating Michigan than they do winning national championships. It's a very unique rivalry in that sense. So that is a key factor in the game. But from Heupel's perspective, dude, it's another Heupel legacy game, right? Like, it's the Vanderbilt game was, okay, can you just not screw this up? Can you get us in the dance? But if he wins this game, we're talking about special. We're talking about elite, because we talked about this on the playoff show that Blake was alluding to earlier. This Ohio State pool and the seed that we're in was a pretty unfortunate pool for us. This is one of the most.
It's the toughest route. I mean,
It is the toughest route to a national championship. That is a fact, and possibly the toughest. Actually, not possibly. It is the toughest round one matchup. There's no question about it. I would take Ohio State over any of the teams in round one. Like, if you're just looking at neutral field favorability kind of things. They did just lose to Michigan. I understand that. But they are a very talented roster. They are, I mean, people have been talking about it all year. This is a $20 million roster. Highest NIL evaluation in college football. It's extremely talented roster, so it's extremely tough pool. So, with all that being said, if Heupel can go beat them on the road, in the shoe, in the playoffs, dude, I mean, we might have an elite coach on our hand. I've been talking all season. Heupel is a good coach. No one should ever talk about firing this coach, considering what we've been through for the last 20 plus years of just ineptitude as a organization. Heupel's a good coach, but is he a great coach? Is he an elite coach? Is he in that Kirby Smart, even Dabo in his prime level coaches in college football? He hasn't proven that yet. He's had those big Alabama wins. Those are massive wins, okay? Wins I will literally never forget until I die, okay? But this win would be his biggest. It would be his biggest because it's the postseason. Like Blake said, we're playing for a national championship. It's not a national championship game, but this is the playoffs, okay? This is the playoffs. And we've discussed this on the playoff show, and I've talked about this countless times off air. If we win this game, it's all downhill. And what I mean, it gets easier. The road gets easier. Ohio State might be a more talented team than Oregon. Now, Oregon's the number one team in the country, but we're also talking about the difference between playing at the Shoe or a neutral field against Oregon. We've both said, Blake, that we would both rather play Oregon on a neutral field. So
10 times out of 10.
Exactly. So if you can get past Ohio State, all of a sudden, we got a national championship in our sights. We really do. We have a national championship in our sights. And if you can get past Oregon, dude, that Final Four game is going to be a damn breeze. And then you have a potential Georgia-Tennessee national championship, which I don't want, or a Tennessee Notre Dame national championship, which I would love. So, please, Notre Dame, if you could just knock out Georgia for us. But, so, with that being said, if Heupel can win this game, it could possibly lead to us playing for a national championship. So this would be the biggest win of his career. And it would tell me that, listen, you have less talent in this game. You are on the road in this game. You are the underdog in this game. You're a 7-point underdog in this game. If you can win this game, you're an elite coach. The conversation's over. I don't care about the road loss to Arkansas. I don't care about the road loss to South Carolina in 2022. We have an elite coach on our hand.
1,000%. Because also you want to. We've talked about this before too, right? I made the analogy. Heupel and he talks about good teams get better. We've talked about that on this podcast that. A good team needs to continue to get better over the season. The same is true of a coach, man. A coach has to get better over their career and continue to grow and evolve. And what I would love to see is this game be that turning point for Heupel where it's like, okay, he's been a good coach, like you said. He's been a good coach. He's won some big games. He finally beat Bama for us, right? All these things. But where is the moment that he's going to turn the page to that elite status, that great status? Kind of like, you've been talking about Nico having that kind of moment in the second half against Alabama where he kind of turned a page and he's been, great since then. Can Heupel turn a page on this question with road games, right? Heupel can't win on the road in big games, and can Heupel outcoach, some of the great coaches in the country? He, without a doubt, he answers those questions if he wins this game. Now, unfortunately, the BVS in me is what makes me a little pessimistic because we haven't seen that yet, right? We haven't seen a really big, huge road win, and so that is scary to me because I haven't seen it yet, right? And so sure. I don't. It's hard to believe in something that you haven't seen before, right? But man, I there's a lot to like about this matchup, even though it is the toughest matchup, like you said, in the first round. In the playoff, we've got the toughest road. At the end of the day, there is hope, certainly. Almost even, you dare might say optimism, reason for optimism in a lot of ways in this game. But man, how huge would that be if Heupel, against all odds, goes to the Shoe? If these Vol fans, man, if y'all can listen, if you invade the Shoe, get this team some support.
We're gonna have to get you some tickets, bro. We're gonna have to get you a ticket. Get you up to the Shoe.
I know, dude. I tell you what, I seen ticket prices down to like $160 compared to us. We were looking at like $850 for a Tennessee home game in the playoffs.
Exactly.
I don't know. Listen, if Vol Talk blows up, then maybe I can afford $1,000 playoff ticket. But 160, is a little bit more palatable. So, but yeah, man, what a huge game for the legacy of this team, for the legacy of Heupel. And dude, if we win a playoff
Oh,
game and we start rolling in the playoffs, dude,
mm.
what a time to be a I said it's great to be a Tennessee Vol, dude. We can't stop winning.
No, can't stop winning anything. And what a time to be a Vol Talk subscriber, because we'll get more football previews, more football reviews.
That's
Okay,
right.
we're trying to roll out the football, kind of finish off this football season before we get into like what are we going to do with basketball and things like that. Got some ideas in the works, but yeah, man. I mean, it's awesome. Whether we win or lose this game right now, it's an awesome time to be a Vol fan. Just overall, basketball team just got a massive win against Illinois. Jordan Gainey on a last second drive to the bucket with a layup to win at the buzzer. It was incredible. It was electric. They're undefeated for the first 10-0 start since 1999 to 2000 season. Unbelievable start for the Vol basketball team, and the Lady Vols are undefeated in the top 20. Got the baseball ring national champions. It doesn't stop. I think the hockey team's up to number 2 overall in the country. I don't even know where they put those games, but the Vol hockey's doing something. So yeah, man, it's a great time. And also, I like you said, dude, I wanted to touch on this as well. There is reason for optimism in this game. I really think there are. I think on paper, just matchup wise, what both teams are good at, and this time of year, I think it does favor us. But I mean, like you said, if he wins this game, like if he loses, it's no panic or anything. Of course not. It's a very hard matchup, but if he wins, it can change the trajectory of the program, which is already up, right? We're already on our way up. We're in the first 12-team playoff when Alabama is at home. That's fantastic. That makes me really happy. But if you can win this game, dude, who knows where we can go from there, right? Because, again, we are starting to explode as a program, right? We were like this, kind of like the exploding well. We were the exploding well as a program, frankly. Except we're still we're still expanding, right? We're still expanding, we're still growing. But I think there's still more to go get. Because even in recruiting, if you look at us in recruiting last few years, we're hanging around the top 10. Dude, there's no reason we can't get in the top 5 recruiting wise. There's no reason for it. There's not a lack of resources there. There's nothing stopping us from doing it. But I think if our program can take the next step to win a postseason game against the Ohio State, I cannot wait to go to the shoe, man. It's going to be a great time hearing those idiot fans at Ohio State. And we haven't mentioned this yet on the show, but me and Blake hate Ohio State, okay? Outside of Vol Talk, outside of this particular game, Ohio State is our most hated team outside of the SEC, okay? So it's like a win-win or a lose-lose for us, dude. We're all in on this game, man. So it's gonna be crucial, but yeah, man, I'm excited.
Yeah, a lot of potential heartbreak, but man, a lot of feel good feelings if we can pull off this win, and it's an upset, man. I haven't checked the line recently, but we were about a touchdown dog.
Yep.
Is it still hanging around about 6.5, 7.5 points?
It's 7 last I checked.
7. Yeah, so we're an underdog, so it's going to be an upset. ESPN matchup predictors got it at like a 67-33%. So they're giving us about a third of a percent chance to, a 33% chance to win. And so we're absolutely underdogs, but like you said, man, there's reason for optimism in this matchup, which maybe we need to knock on wood. I'm at a wood table right now. I'm knocking on this wood because our BVS has gotten us this far. So maybe we need to keep our pessimism and save the optimism, for later. But there is reason for optimism. And man, I can't wait to see, like you said, the trajectory of this program. Shoot, David Sanders Jr. We beat out Ohio State for his commitment.
Yeah,
he finally signed, and so it's like, man, we're beating him on the recruiting trail, and then if we can beat him on the field, like you said, there's no reason. The resources are there. There's no reason to not break into the top 5 every year in recruiting for this program. And man, what a trajectory we'd be on. Because people forget, this is the last thing I'll say, but people forget that Heupel started at this program with scholarship restrictions.
Yep.
You know, we were restricted in scholarships. He's just now getting to full depth, you know, with his players, and so, man, there's only up to go from here. But it's got to start in Columbus at the shoe. What's your prediction, man? Are we going to invade the shoe? You think? Yeah, you said saw some stuff on Twitter with some ticket sales. I mean, what's the deal?
Let me say this, okay? And I predicted 20,000 fans. It could be more, but let me just say this to the Ohio State fans who are already down in the dumps. Okay, they're already down in the dumps. They've all written the season off because they couldn't beat Michigan with a running back at quarterback. Here's the deal: if this game was in Neyland Stadium, there is zero chance there would be any discussion about Ohio State fans taking over Neyland Stadium. That didn't happen in Neyland when we sucked. Okay? If this game was in Knoxville, oh my God, Neyland Stadium might collapse, dude. That's how loud it would have been. So I'm trying not to be too optimistic about how many Vols fans will be there. But I know a lot of people that are going. Okay, I've seen a lot of people going online. Ohio State fans are trying to sell them tickets because they're out on Ryan Day. They're literally looking forward to their next coach. So, man, I think it's possible. I think it's very possible that Vols fans do take over the shoe. And then you might throw all the road stuff out. If it's a noise thing for this offense at times on the road, you might just throw it out. The communication's going to be fine because half the stadium's going to be Vols fans. So we'll see, man. I just got to say to Ohio State fans, it's a shame, bro. That's a shame that you would never, never hear that talk in Neyland Stadium. Ever, dude, ever. There are probably about 2,000 Ohio State fans just because they're, ticket allocation or whatever that they have to have. Outside of that, it would be all orange.
100%, without a doubt. And look, I get it. You're down bad. You got a decent coach. You're down bad. You couldn't beat your rival. But yeah, dude. And here's the deal. I am worried. Like maybe they'll be fired up about all this talk about us invading the shoe, and maybe they'll show up and show out and be really rabid and create a really tough environment for us.
We play in the SEC. There ain't no rabid environment in the Big Ten. Come on, man. Come on.
Listen. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate, but at the end of the day, I know Vols fans are going to do the right thing. We're going to get up there. We're going to invade the shoe. I hope your prediction of 20,000 is right. Trey Wallace broke on Twitter that allegedly 42% of ticket sales are coming from the state of Tennessee. Now, there's Ohio State fans in Tennessee, right? Some. And it could be resellers, trying to sell it back to Ohio State fans, right? So that doesn't mean 42%. I would be shocked if we get anywhere near 40%.
Yeah, same.
Of the fans there, which and their stadium is about 100,000 capacity, right?
Yeah.
Little less or a little over. I can't remember the exact number. So about 40% would be about 40,000, right? I'd be shocked if we get close to that. If we get 30,000 fans, that would be a huge
game changing
to me.
Game changing.
That'd be game changing.
Dude, you're gonna hear. Oh, dude, my favorite clip online. Literally my favorite clip, maybe in Vol history, outside of Chase McGrath's kick, which I'm literally looking at to the left here. Outside of that, it might be when we went into Death Valley in 2022, and we're just listening to Rocky Top all the second half. You had the literally Vol Nation just all together in this one crowd. All you could hear was Rocky Top. Dude, let me tell you something right now. The Alabama game I went to this year was one of the best experiences of my life. Okay, I say it's my best experience in my life. Okay, and as football wise. If we go into the shoe and I'm hearing Rocky Top in the fourth quarter, brother, it might take it over. It might. Who knows? Okay, Neyland was electric. But, dude, it would be so special to go on the road and just hear Rocky Top all second half long. Oh, I would love it.
It gets me fired up, dude. We got to get in there. We got to freaking blast Rocky Top. Show them what it's about, man. I want Ohio State to hate Rocky Top as much as our rivals do in the SEC,
Yes.
because man, you don't know fandom until you see the Tennessee Volunteer fan
Correct.
base, until you see Vol Nation. So, man, let's get up there. Let's invade the shoe. Let's have a great game. Again, if we can get up to 30,000, that'd be incredible. Even 20,000, I think, would be a huge win because
Huge.
they had like an allocation force of like
3,500.
3,000 or
Yeah,
something.
3,500.
3,500. Yeah,
Yep.
ridiculous. Right. So let's get up there. Let's show them what Tennessee football is about. Austin,
It's
man,
time.
prediction time.
It's time. Oh, I have picked the Vols all 12 weeks on this podcast. Okay, we've played a lot of. I mean, the two games we lost were very close games, so I don't necessarily regret that. Those are two games we could have won. Obviously, Arkansas, and we should have won the Georgia game. I'm gonna pick my Vols again, man. I am. I think Ohio State is broken. I think the culture is dead in Ohio State. They care so much about that Michigan game, dude. So much. I think it broke them. I think Jim Harbaugh left and they thought this is an easy win this season. So we're gonna take this game with ease. We're gonna beat Michigan by 3 touchdowns. We're gonna make up for all of it, and then they didn't. And I think Ryan Day is broken. I think the locker room is broken. And I think on paper, okay, if you just look at what we're good at and what they're good at, the cold favors us. The cold favors us. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think Nico's going to make a couple big time throws in big time moments, and I think we'll win 21-17.
21-17. I tell you what, Austin. I agree with you. I think Ohio State is in shambles in a lot of ways. Their fan base certainly is. But I'm a shoot you straight. Okay, I don't give a damn who we are playing in the first round of the playoff. Okay, this is the Vol Talk podcast. Okay, so what they gotta make sense of is go damn Vols. Okay, that's all I know. That's all I know. And that's all they got to make sense of is go Vols, baby. So, you know what? I don't care who we're playing. What is the Ohio State? I don't know what,
Can't
I
wait
don't
to
even
shut
know
them
what
up.
the state of Ohio is. Okay. 27-13. The Tennessee Volunteers win by 2 touchdowns.
Oh, okay. All right, dude. I like it.
That's all they got to make sense of is go Vols, baby. Listen, Austin, you're traveling up to the game with Dakota. A lot of Vols fans are heading up there. Again, we hope it's a huge, big orange caravan. Please be safe in your travels. Vol Nation heading up to Columbus. Let's have a good football game. Let's have a good, clean football game. Let's come out of there with a win and head towards a national championship, baby. It's time to bring that back to Rocky Top. And let's just hope that no one gets arrested if we do win, because there will be
No promises, brother. No promises. We're taking over Columbus, Ohio, brother.
Taking them over. Folks, thanks for joining us for this episode of Vol Talk. This has been the preview of the Tennessee Volunteers versus the Ohio State Buckeyes in the first round of the playoffs for the 2024 season. We hope you've enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, please go ahead and subscribe. We're almost at 50 subscribers. That's not a lot right now, but man, we have been consistent all season. This is our first season. We've really appreciated everyone who has joined us this season, who has subscribed, who has checked out our videos. We really appreciate the support and getting this thing off the ground. We don't have much production yet, man. We don't have much production quality, but we're getting there slowly but surely, right? Just like good teams get better, good podcasts get better. Okay, so we're getting better slowly but surely. We appreciate y'all for supporting us, but please, if you like this video, please subscribe, leave us a comment, leave us a like on the video, and we'd be happy to have you along as we grow this Vol Talk podcast. And hopefully we will see you all next week. We'll definitely do an Ohio State review, right? We're going to follow through on the game, win or lose. We're going to do a review episode of the Ohio State game. But hopefully, like Austin said, hopefully we'll continue with some preview shows as we continue in the playoffs. We'll see y'all then for that. Until then, Go Vols, baby.
GBO.